Oh, so there's ready button is right there. Yeah. I end every single video and stream by telling everyone to God bless and live strong for today. So I figured I'd go with it. Let's have fun Oh, what do you think it was? Oh. I can see that.
sometimes.
Yeah, they have a little bit of a more unpredictable movement pattern, so they can end up really getting in your way. And there is some RNG involved as well, where they're going to start in the room and where they're going to move. So, but Crimson, almost to the back of escape here, going to go through the throne room, push aside this back wall. Meanwhile, Jere is just going to be getting out of the dungeons here with Zelda.
Yes. And I was told right before this race started by Kern, who's the mentor for Jere, that this is actually their first race ever.
It's very exciting to be able to see all these new fresh faces, and I mean, see them get their feet wet in the racing scene, get used to this sort of environment, because there definitely is some added pressure. And I want to thank both of these guys for allowing us to put on this restream of them.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're doing a tournament race, like the Swiss stages are not going to be super high stakes because everyone moves on to bracket no matter what, but your result will affect which bracket you're put in. So there's still some stakes in the Swiss still, so that can add even more pressure when playing, or a little bit of stress.
Oh, we got a mirror, some more bombs that.
Yeah. After all this farming of bombs, we get 10 in the back anyways.
Yeah. Crimson, I think, I'm not sure if that was his call or if maybe Freddie telling him to, but I really like going out the back there when you have a little bit of extra bombs. Saves you a little bit of time, and every second that you can save in these types of race environments is pretty important.
Yeah, I know a lot of these races so far has actually been really close. So getting every bit of time save that you can get is definitely worth it. Ooh, nice boulder. So we have Eastern and Logic already, and we do have a mirror, which is really nice.
Yeah, I don't think we've actually seen a map check yet from either runner. And they're speaking of, Eastern Belt is in fact a crystal.
Yeah, we also have crystals in the light world, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, we also have a 5/6 crystal in Hera and a pendant in Desert. So I'd expect an early Eastern play. Seed is definitely pushing you in that direction, and it is fully clearable and in Logic, as you said.
Yeah. We're actually only a glove away from that Hera crystal being in Logic too. It's pretty wild.
But we do have Kakariko to go, and Crimson is actually going to go ahead and make a quick check here up to Lumberjack. Just 10 arrows, so at the very least, we won't need to do Agate to get that item. Always some nice information early. I know that a lot of people, I feel like the general consensus these days is to skip out on that until you have boots and lamp, but it never hurts to get that checked early.
Yeah, Ambrosia is an interesting beast because it kind of tells you in advance if you need to check that or not in one way, because if you know that like boots are in, especially in Ganon's Tower, but even if they're in like a weird place like Touch Rock or something like that, it's highly unlikely that anything useful is going to be on that Lumberjack ledge. And in this case, where we have the boots on the mountain, you could potentially just check it as you're going up the mountain, but there's a flute, so that kind of invalidates that strat, I guess.
Yeah, this is it's actually really interesting because that puts not only Eastern but now Hera as well completely into Logic. So our runners have a lot of, I think, very different and reasonable options here coming into Kakariko.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely you have 2 crystal dungeons full clearable before you even step foot in Kakariko.
Jere, unfortunately, taking a death there from the Green Guards is going to actually do a quick restart in Link's house. So bit of a divergence. You don't typically see this, but I think with that death, they want to try and hit some other locations, especially given how stacked this early seed has been. The big problem, of course, being that Jere did not make it into the forest to grab that flute. So they are going to have to get back there pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate to not have that before going to South Shore, but I like the adapt on the fly. With taking that depth, might as well just go South Shore first instead, and hope to get something good out of it instead of just backtracking from where you exactly were before.
So we'll get a look at the well here. Didn't look like we found anything of real value in Blind's Hut, except oh no, sorry, it's Ambrosia. We already had a sword. But do get 300 rupees, which is going to be really nice for Crimson should they eventually decide to hit up Zora. Just 100 rupees from the dam and Master Sword in the well as well.
Yeah, that's really nice. As soon as they get over to the South Shore, they will have enough money for Zora as well, because there was 100 rupees at the dam there. Nice to remember activating the flute. That's an easy mistake that can happen sometimes.
Yeah, you're used to having bombs out and just you're not used to having that flute so early. So yeah, making sure to remember to get that activated. Flute can be such an impactful item early. It allows you to get to some areas that are normally really painful to get over to, like Agina or Ice Rod Cave. So yeah, making sure you get that activated early is really important.
For sure. Ooh, there's our hook shot. That's gonna make the mountain look very interesting. And a hammer. Wow. Okay, this seed is quite filled with a lot of good early progression.
Yeah, I do want to point out.
Saving.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to really quickly say thank you to Larry for pointing out we did have Quake and Blind Set, so that could be required later on.
Yeah, for sure. And so Jere was a little bit of low on health after doing the bomb Minimoldrum cave. Decided to save and quit and now head over to Kakariko, but that's actually going to be quite helpful to just skip Ice Road Cave for now, because we're going to get that flute and they can just flute back there whenever they want to.
Yeah, it's interesting. This actually could work out really nicely for Jere. They have a lot of really interesting options with that hammer and hook shot now. And in fact, I think the mountain looks like a really, really tempting play right now. We do have a shovel on race game. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's worth grabbing. You can just route it in now, right after race game, so that's pretty sweet. I would be quite interested to see if... because Death Mountain can be a little bit treacherous sometimes, especially with low health. So I wouldn't be too surprised to maybe see our runners just go for Eastern first instead.
Yeah, totally reasonable play. I mean, with this set of items, you have actually quite a crazy amount of access to the light world early game. And obviously, we're still on the lookout for our glove, our Moon Pearl, but yeah, there's a lot of really defensible routing choices you could make here.
Yeah, we are at the same time dangerously close of having AGA access, but with this much open, I wouldn't assume anyone to do AGA until we have cleared out the vast majority, at least, of all the checks that we have available.
Oh, of course, and I assume our mentors, Kern and Freddie, are telling our runners that, you know, it's always there's always tends to be a little bit of a fine line between clearing too much versus and putting off AGA for too long versus getting there too early and it not being required. I think this seed, given how much stuff they have and how much they have access to, yeah, we're not even thinking about AGA yet, even though it is technically in logic.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you have the flute as well, you can use backtrack to wherever you need to go without having to like isolate anything. A normal scenario would be like you get like a bottle and you're like, oh, should I do AGA or should I just go turn into this bottle? But when you have the flute, like all the decisions like that become so much easier because the fast travel really helps a lot.
And in fact, it is Crimson who's going to be making the first play up the mountain. It's in the seed, given where that hookshot and hammer was. This is a little less than ideal, but like as you mentioned with that flute, it's not going to be as painful as it would be normally. Does mean that Crimson's likely going to have to make an extra trip up the mountain that Jere won't need to, but shouldn't be too bad.
It's gonna be interesting to see if they decide to do East Death Mountain before Hera or not. That would maximize their chances of getting boots before Hera. Ooh, there's our Moon Pearl, so going up the mountain before Darkhold is definitely required.
Yeah, Crimson will absolutely be grabbing that. And then, yeah, it's a question. Unfortunately for Crimson, he can't get over to East Death Mountain at the moment. Missing both that hammer and hookshot.
You're totally right.
So he's going to have to make a decision here. Looks like they are going to continue on towards Hera. I'm not sure if Crimson is proficient in Hera Pot, but wouldn't be able to do it anyways at this moment. Jere would have the option to, if that's something they've practiced. But it looks like Crimson is going to be finishing up Hera, which completely makes sense from their perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'm not 100% sold on this mountain climb then, if you don't have the hookshot or hammer. But, I mean, it makes sense to, at the very least, you can do the old man for free and just hope to get your boots there and then potentially leave. But since you're already here, I can definitely understand the temptation of just climbing up, getting a crystal dome, and then reassess what to do afterwards.
Yeah, and I'll double that nurse by Loreria there. And thanks to Loreria for tracking for us today. She's going to be our tracker, pointing out that they might have been hoping for an early boots reward here on the mountain, but sadly it looks like it's not going to be over on this side.
Yeah, that's one of the a little bit not dangerous, but weird parts of Ambrosia is that sometimes you can get baited into doing a suboptimal play because of the promise of boots.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crimson going to be taking the normal path up here. Still looking for the first item, and as you mentioned before, Ambrosia being different in that the boss is always going to have one of our dungeon items. That, of course, means that if we find one item here down in the bottom levels of the dungeon, our runners can just skip everything else and go straight for the boss. Definitely makes Ambrosia a little more interesting, and you have to kind of really keep that in mind when you're running these types of seeds.
Yeah, most of the times it makes the dungeons better, because if you find if there's like 2 or 3 items in the dungeons, as soon as you just find the first one or the first 2, you can just go straight for the boss after that. It can also make the dungeons a little bit worse sometimes if for say you're dipping into a pendant hoping to get a couple of items, all of a sudden you're gonna have to finish the boss if you want them all.
Yeah, it especially makes dungeons like Skullwoods and Misery Mire way more risky gambles, because especially if you're unable to beat them, there's only one item that you're going to be able to get.
Yeah, for sure. I think my favorite dungeon in Ambrosia is Ice Palace, especially if you're confident in the Icebreaker, because it's quite often that you get like 2 early items in Ice Palace, and then you spend the rest of the time for clearing the dungeon anyways, searching for that 3rd one. But all of a sudden in Ambrosia, you can just beeline for the boss right away at that point.
Yeah, it definitely makes certain dungeons better, some worse. So it's a really fascinating mode, and I know some folks maybe not their speed, but I do enjoy it as a change up from just regular open. I like this play from Jere. This is actually one of my preferred checks early when I get that early flute. Getting Agina's Cave and Desert Ledge checked and out of the way.
Yeah,
they're
sure.
much faster with the flute.
Yeah, and in a normal game mode, it would be quite easy to isolate these for a very long time. So just getting it out of the way, even if you don't get anything from it, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Meanwhile, on Crimson's side, it did have one fall, unfortunately, but does get that kill onto Moldorm. Gets a heart container for Shovels. Unfortunately, it does look like we have an item in the basement in the seed. So we'll see if they're going to go back in for it.
Yeah, I like this. Going back for the item because we don't have Dark World access yet, and you went all the way up here. You don't want to risk having to go all the way up here for the basement anyways later, just for that one item. So just getting it out of the way right now makes sense.
Yeah, it's always a tricky thing to decide, and I wonder if they had the hammer and hook shot, if they would have made the same decision. It's an interesting discussion for sure, but I definitely don't mind the play here.
Ice for Cave, only 20 rupees. We're gonna see a 7 quit, so most likely an Eastern or a Mountain play here with Jere coming up.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I probably would have prioritized going to the mountain, but you're getting these one-off checks out of the way quickly. Ice Rod Cave and Agana, and with that flute, they can always get back there really quickly. And I don't think they want to have anything to do with Zora area until they can actually get everything, which means they're gonna need that Moon Pearl or Flippers.
Yes. Meanwhile, there was only a blue mail. I say only in quotation mark, I guess. Blue mail in the basement. It is a very nice safety item, especially if you're a bit newer to the game. So it's gonna be helpful, but it was probably not what they were hoping for.
Yeah, you're definitely looking for progression. It is funny. I feel like sometimes we get those of us who have been running and racing for a while can get a little bit cynical about those kinds of safeties. For runners who are kind of just starting out or just getting used to racing, those are probably those are going to be much more valuable.
Yeah,
especially
sure.
once we get later on to Dark World when things can get really scary.
Yeah, a blue mail could be a game changer for sure. Because like you're 6 hearts right now. If you're going to the Dark World with 6 hearts, that could be pretty intimidating. But the blue mail, all of a sudden, it's like you have 12 hearts going.
Yeah, and we actually have some divergence here. Both our runners linking up here in the eastern area. Jere getting their first one into CrimsonPallasch. They did get a can of Samaria in the Hospitalist Hut. But yeah, looks like both of them deciding to get dungeons done early. Crimson getting hair out of the way and now getting Eastern done. I am a little bit surprised that Jere and Kern did not decide to go to the mountain, but as you mentioned earlier, maybe it's something they want to save it until maybe they have a little bit more safeties, because yeah, the mountain can be a bit of a scary place.
Yeah, I think that's probably playing in here a bit. Which is like I always used to say to people, like, play to your own capabilities, right? Like, if you need more safeties, then go for it. Like, the only one who can make that decision is you. So if you're doing this first, I think that's 100% fine. Like, you're gonna have to full clear this anyways. The only issue is that, yeah, maybe you could have had the boots while doing it, but
yeah, and to echo a point in chat, I think the other thing to consider is that with that early mirror, this could have been routed in with pod. So I think my preferred play would be to head to the mountain early, but again, play to your strengths. One of the things early on for folks who are just getting started, dying is really the big killer as far as your time is concerned. So making sure that you're playing it safely and within your own means and strengths is important.
Yeah, for sure. Especially overworld devs can sometimes be the most harmful, because you don't just get like a warped back to the beginning of the dungeon, because there is none. But I guess with the flute and the overworld devs, it's a little bit less worse, unless you're in the Dark World.
Very nicely done on that room by Crimson. Getting that quick kill on these Stalfos by grabbing the pot in the upper right. And then there's a little line in the room. It's almost like a U shape where crossing over that will spawn the skeletons. And if you spawn them in the correct location, you can actually get the top and bottom ones to not spawn at all. And was able to do that and get 2 quick pot kills on the ones that did spawn. So very nicely done.
Yeah, and looks like even though it's Ambrosia, we're gonna have to full clear the dungeon anyways, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does happen sometimes, and we really didn't get what we were looking for in those early chests. Sometimes you get lucky and you get the first 2 dungeon items in the first 3 chests there and can just head straight to the back, but not the case this time. Crimson going to have to activate that switch. Very good, and gets the big key. And of course, with that early lamp, we don't have to worry too much about the dark rooms in here. Though these are on the easier end of the spectrum, it definitely makes things faster, even when the dark rooms are maybe not as difficult as, say, something like Dark Mire. It makes things go a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and nice thinking there from Jere, using the Kina Burna in order to preserve a couple of hearts, going for the pot there. Looks like both of our runners. Oh, it looks like Kern might have told Jere not to open that big chest, because that is just a compass. This being Ambrosia, you don't need to clear it, since we already had 2 non-dungeon items before this.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally, that was actually the biggest hurdle when starting this. Was I would always forget that that stipulation of the mode. So
yeah,
good call there.
Yeah, it's super easy to forget.
Yeah, and just to remind folks, we do have the whole goal of this tournament. The whole point is to have the mentors in the race with our runners, kind of helping them, guiding them, but just kind of there for support. And I'm going to thank Kern and Freddie for helping out these 2 guys here today.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a pretty awesome, good way to get more people into the community, and also it's just nice to have someone help you out, because there's so much in this game, so many small strats in every single room. It's been optimized for almost 30 years now, so if you have to like figure all this out on for yourself, it's going to be a tough time.
Oh yeah, and by that same token though, it's been optimized for 30 years, but we're still learning new things about it practically every week. So there's a lot to learn. Jere here's going to be going into his Eastern Palace fight. Meanwhile, Crimson finally going to be getting down to South Shore and is going to be happy to find both that hook shot and hammer. Maybe not as happy as if he had gotten it for his first Death Mountain trip, but still better late than never.
Yeah, I guess the climb that they didn't really cost them too much, since they're getting the hook shot and not only the hammer, because they're not going to have to go up to the Hera section. They can just go straight to the East Death Mountain right away.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was mentioning with having the flute early like this. It makes stuff like that a little bit less painful. Don't have to do any sort of save and quit. Can take a quicker flute route back up. And yeah, like you said, just hook shot across. We did see Jere got decently close to getting that quick kill on the Armos Knights, but is now going to have to deal with this red one. Gets him down for his first crystal.
Crimson getting their flute out, probably to flute to 8. Or, yeah, just go up the mountain first. It's quite likely we're getting our boots here anyways, and quite likely some other progression as well. The boots could still be on the tablet, on Floating Island, and on Mimic Cave, so that would be our only stops from not getting the boots right here now.
Yeah, and a little more convergence here as Jere, after taking down the Armos Knights, is going to head straight up the mountain, and we'll be able to just kind of route everything all at once. So, yeah, like we were talking about, this is a little bit of a time save for Jere. Doesn't have to make an extra mountain trip. Can just, once he's done with Hera, I mean, there's multiple ways he can do it. He could take the hookshot path over and go to Hera last, or go to Hera first and then come over. Personally, I would want to try and clear this out, especially knowing boots are right there.
Yeah, I think that will play a part of going east first, but I think also you maximize your chances of getting some more nice safeties before Hera as well. Still kind of free to go up here and check the not checkerboard, Spectacle Rock first. So, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them jumping down after this. Ooh, we got a book and a red mail. That's pretty nice.
Well, that's really interesting because our runners were going to be pretty close to locked out of checks, but that book actually does open up Desert Palace, and we also have boots. Again, this being Ambrosia, without the glove, we really only have one check in Desert that we can get, but even so, it does open up yet another option.
Yes, at least the boots guarantees that we can get that one item in Desert, so you don't have to go in hoping to get it. But we do have Spiral Cave as an out as well, but I guess it has to be Spiral Cave, Aga, or the Desert at this point. Oh no, we have Bunk Rocks as well.
Yeah, we do have that one boots check. Zora is still not in Logic, of course, because we do not have glove or flippers. That is the requirement for him being in Logic.
I will say if this ends up being an Agaseed, it's still a pretty kind Agaseed in terms of you actually got 2 crystals before Aga, and you have a lot of good items that you want to have in the Dark World before going in there.
Yeah, I think our runners are probably pretty happy with the item loadout that they've got before Dark World.
And it looks like Crimson is gonna head for maybe Spike Cape, but they don't have a glove for it.
No, I think they're heading back up to use the book on Ether Tablet.
Oh yeah, that sounds a lot better than the idea you suggested.
Yeah, I think. I mean, they've got that cane. Definitely could do Spike Cave, and I'd probably just get it out of the way.
Well, they can do it until they have a glove. That's the problem.
Oh, of course, and that's of course the one thing I always forget. It is weird to be up here with all this stuff you need, except for a glove.
Yeah, for sure.
You are correct.
It's one to forget. That's what I thought they were doing first. I got a little bit scared, but I totally forgot about the tablet instead.
I do like this from Crimson and Freddy here. There is a potential that one of our gloves is locked behind something like flippers, and now with the money they've got and the boots, all this stuff is doable.
Mm-hmm.
Not in Logic, but doable.
Yes. Looks like they're gonna opt out of that one though.
Yeah, it's sometimes easy to forget when we're doing these that these runners might not have maybe the knowledge of some of the glitches, because they're with those boots now. There is a glitch that they can do a boots water walk, but looks like they're deciding they want to do some other stuff first. Maybe potentially something Crimson's not 100% comfortable with or practiced in.
Yeah, looks like they're gonna stay in Logic for now. And hey, let's go do those flipper stuff now instead.
Yeah, well, now we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah,
so that's really convenient.
No risk of getting one hit KO'd when you already have the flippers.
All right, well, we're going to get a look at those checks. Looks like maybe that was an audible there. Crimson, I think, was heading up towards the man under the bridge and checking Hylia Island, but instead, we're going to double back and head for Waterfall Cave and Zora.
Yeah, you can always get the hobo after Sora if you want to. You save and quit to Link's house. It's pretty fast. You just run from there.
Yeah, I think that might have been the conversation that was happening there, potentially, between the two. Because I know that was something I used to do a lot when I was first starting out, was doing a full clear of all of Hylia, which is fine, but when you're, swimming around is slow. So doing it later on can be save you a little bit of extra time.
Ooh, Jere unfortunately got in a slash there in between the spins, so got Moldrum into the super speed there, so we're gonna have to try this again. Looks like we're gonna go for the hammer this time around.
Yeah, I think either way works. Just depends on what you're comfortable with. Another fall, unfortunately. Yeah, you can either go with those Master Sword spins or hammer, and it really just depends on how comfortable you are with, hammer hitbox. Hammer is going to be a little bit more consistent for keeping you out of that super speed state you were talking about, but can be a little bit tricky with the hitboxes.
Yep, they haven't switched the pegs, but so they can't take any pots of health if they take another fall here. But it looks like it won't be needed. I was gonna say otherwise you could always do the the official way of getting into Harapod. Just take a fairy and come back up again. But no worries, we got the fight done. So that's second crystal for Jere as well.
Yep, and we see Crimson getting the 300 rubies from Agnes Cave, and I suspect we're going to get a quick look at Desert. Because otherwise, really no option but to head to Aga at this point.
Yeah, that looks fairly likely. So the decision is, if this ends up being Aga, what will the runner's decision go be as soon as they get into the Dark World? Because you would have a couple of options. You could just start doing the loop right away around, or you can go into Pod. But the question would be, is Pod a crystal or not? We didn't see a Dark World map check when either runner went up to Hera yet, so we're a little bit unsure on that one.
Yeah, that's an easy map check to forget if you're ever heading up to Hera with the mirror early on. You want to get those map checks in when you can, and the earlier you can get them, the better, because that sort of information is just very valuable. It looks like neither of the runners were thinking about it, but yeah, I'm with you. It's going to largely depend on what our crystal dungeons are. If Pod is required this seed.
Mm-hmm.
It is full clearable, so.
Yeah. Jere took a little bit of damage there in the tile room, but could actually put that to good use here via second Death Warp going out here. Looks like that's what they're doing, so they're healthy going over to East F Mountain.
Yeah, definitely a good call. If you're ever in a situation like this, even if it technically would be faster for you to mirror out, as we were talking about before, deaths in the overworld are especially painful. So, yeah, definitely like the call to just take a quick death, get yourself a little bit more health, and then start heading over.
Mm-hmm. We saw a pretty much perfect what's it called, the show of case here from Crimson. I think mentoring Freddy and Crimson talking to each other, because he started going to one entrance and then started going back, and just went back and forth for a while. So they probably had some discussion on what to do next there.
Yeah, this unfortunately one of the worst key layouts you could get for Ambrosia, and it looks like our only item here in Desert that we have access to currently is going to be 20 rupees.
Yeah. Looks like they are going out here, so maybe they did not check the ledge yet. Or maybe they're forgetting that they can't go into the back.
Yeah, they're gonna unfortunately gonna get here and realize, oops, again, not having that glove.
Yes, I think that pretty much guarantees Or did they not do? Yeah, they held off with Hobo for a while, right?
Yeah,
Hobo
they
was our
didn't.
last chance.
They still haven't checked it, so that's our last chance to avoid Aga. And on Jerry's side, unfortunately, taking a death here. Not sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, didn't catch where exactly they were.
I think that was in Spiral case. That was right before getting those boots. But since they have the hook shot, they can use the hook shot over to get over there pretty quickly.
All right, it's we're gonna have our item. No.
So it looks like this is an Aga seed for sure.
Yeah, I think at this point we've exhausted everything we could possibly check. So, unfortunately, even despite this crazy loadout, Aga does appear to be our answer.
Yeah, Master Sword for climbing Aga Tower. That's pretty much the same load that you have in Vanilla in terms of swords, at least. But at least you do have the bow, which you normally have as well, which can help out against some of these enemies. Hookshot is pretty nice. You can stun a couple of enemies as well if they get too much in your face. So we'll see what they go for here. Looks like we're going for the arrow strats here. It's 4 para ball and chain guard here. A couple of slashers as well. There's a couple of light world enemies that react a bit weird towards the Master Sword. Ball and chain guards being one of them. They take the same amount of damage from the Master Sword slashes as they do from a fighter sword, which is a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, I think anybody who has put any time into studying the damage tables and all the various weird interactions there are can tell you that this game's got some weird ones. And there's one thing I would say for anybody who's looking to race, I definitely check out NMG speedruns for this type of situation here in Aga, because there are a lot of different room strats you can use. But as you mentioned before, this game has been speedrun for so long at this point that I think the consensus on what the optimal room strats are is pretty well ingrained for this loadout, at least.
Yes, that's the interesting part where Rando plays in, because you mentioned that we're still learning new stuff, and especially Rando has kind of pioneered that in one sense, because all of a sudden you're in a lot of scenarios where in a normal speedrun you would never ever find yourself in that position. So we're starting to optimize it even in that regard as well.
Yeah, it's not terribly uncommon to find yourself here in Aga Tower with a fighter sword. So, but Crimson making some nice time here with those Master Sword strats.
Looks like since Kern and Jere decided to hold off with the Graveyard Ledge for a while, now that they finally have the boots, they're going to make sure to check that. Which I like. If you skip it early, you kind of almost commit to doing it as soon as you get the boots.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where a lot of people do like to skip it until they have the stuff they need for Aga. And yeah, definitely in this case, given that it's looking more and more likely, I mean, they don't know for sure, they've got some extra checks left, but it's looking likely to them that Aga is going to be required. You definitely want to be checking that, see if there's some progression there.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to see the island here, Red Ruby. I think that Crimson and Freddy actually skipped that part. They're not going to be burned by that.
Yeah, I wonder if that was just if they just simply forgot, or if it was a conscious decision.
Yeah, I think the idea might have been to check it when they were swimming up towards Hobo at the first time, but then decided not to do that, and then when they just floated back, they kind of skipped it again. But they could actually just blind check it whenever they're in the dark world now, since they already have mirror and flippers.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking was potentially a reason why, is that, once they finish Agnum, checking Hylia Island would not be too difficult. But of course, in this case, it is just 20 rupees, so not going to be required. Looks like we're pretty close to done with Agnum here for Crimson. Yeah, there it is. Last one. Gets the 6th shot in, and we'll finally get to Dark World.
All right, let's see what we have in the Dark World. You can see the pyramid ledge here right away. Do you see a map check as well? We did know that Turtok was the green pennant, but it looks like our red crystal is on House of Darkness, so that's another crystal we can full clear. I missed where the other 2 pendants were though.
I didn't quite catch it. We'll see. Our tracker's got that covered. But actually, really interesting is that that is our second 5/6 crystal. That means that we're going to have the ability to check Pyramid Fairy really early this seed. And I think the tough thing with something like this, where it's Ambrosia and Aga required, normally you'd prefer to route in Pyramid Fairy with something like a pyramid, escape. If this were an open seed, into Catfish, and Zora if you hadn't done it. In this seed, there's not going to be really much left over there for them to check if they want to do Pyramid Fairy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with this loadout though, they have so many options. It's probably not something they need to be thinking about too much, but it will be a consideration later if we're still searching for our progression.
Looks like according to your tracker, Ice Palace was our last pendant. So we can already start theorizing what we need for Go mode here. We're gonna need 1 medallion, but we might already have that one. Mitts is gonna be required for sure. Fire Rod as well, and the King of Samaria. I guess both gloves are gonna be required. We don't have any yet.
Yeah, definitely hard required, both of those. But yeah, as you're saying, Cane, Fire Rod, potentially some more medallions, but we're not that far off, which is both good and can be scary, because you're just like, oh no. It's kind of one of those things when you see really kind opening seeds where they give you a whole bunch of stuff. It actually tends to make me a little more nervous that we're going to be searching for something, digging around for it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now it looks kind of linear, to be honest, because it feels like when Pod is a crystal and you can full clear it, it doesn't hurt you at all to just go check it. And after that, if we still don't have a glove, we're kind of committed to doing the full loop around the Dark World. We have pretty much everything we need to just check everything on the way. The only question mark that I see at the moment would be, do you go into Skullwoods for potentially one item or not?
Yeah, and of course, we're hoping to find that Fire Rod pretty early. That would be really nice.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing for our runners here is Turtle Rock being a pendant. A lot of the stuff we need for Turtle Rock is missing. So, until we have Mitts, we have Cane of Samaria, we wouldn't even be thinking about something like that. So it keeps you out of one of the longer and scarier pendant dungeons to try and do.
Yeah. And I mean, we actually have access to beating every crystal except for Mire and Skullwoods at the moment. Because both us, you don't need any glove for Swamp or Thieves Town.
Yeah, so we're sitting in pretty good position here with our runners, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. where they decide to go. I think Crimson has a lot of options after Pod. There's a few different ways they can take this. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they end up deciding to do.
Oh yes, with the hammer they can actually go to Hype Cave and like down to Swamp and all that. I always forget this because I don't know. It feels like I never get seeds like this where you're missing the glove instead of the hammer when you're doing it again.
Yeah, it definitely always feels like it's the other way around. As we do see Jere making his way through Desert Palace here. This is his last check, I'm pretty sure. So once he's done here, it's going to be off to Aga Tower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see if they remember when they check the big chest to use Mirror out or not. Or they could even use Save and Quit to get the refill of health before Aga Tower. There's bombos, so that's good to have. Want to get as many medallions as possible before we get the mid, so we don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's always better to have them than to be in the scenario where like I think I can beat the game. I think I'm in go mode, but I don't know what my medallions are. My medallion entries are, and I don't have all the medallions, so have to keep full clearing stuff.
At least Meyer is a lot better in that scenario than Turtle, because it takes a long time to go up to Turtle to check for maybe you have the right medallion or not. Meyer is pretty quick to just flute over, find out if you're in go mode or not.
Yeah, 100%. Did in fact see Jere make a save and quit there to get some health back, get a full refill from the old man, and it is, I have to imagine it's going to be the Aga play. Nothing left.
Yeah, looks like it. So Crimson definitely have a bit of an advantage at the moment, getting into the Dark World first. Their early routes were a little bit divergent.
Yeah, I think the major differences here have definitely been those deaths, and I think this pretty perfectly underscores what we were talking about before, that overworld deaths can be especially punishing when you're racing like this.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to see that both runners have red mail now. It makes such a huge difference against certain enemies. Instead of taking 2 hearts, now all of a sudden you might only take like half a heart instead.
Yeah, nobody. Well, there might be a select number of people who would complain about having red mail, but they're probably never going to complain about it too much. And especially for runners who are just getting started, it's a very nice safety to have. So I feel like both of our runners here are in pretty good position safety-wise.
Yeah, if you're in a position where you get to complain that you have the red mail, you're in a pretty good spot already. See the strat of holding out the sword here against Helmasar. Needs to be a little bit extra safe, or actually if you don't time the hits correctly, having the sword out like that is actually faster. Really nice Helmasar fight there, and it's going to be the 3rd crystal for Crimson.
Yeah, very nicely done. I unfortunately wasn't counting the items in here, but I imagine that they were counting and ended up skipping some stuff in the front. I think I saw them go straight from the bow lock side to the back. So we might be completely done here in Pod, even if we haven't opened all the chests.
Yeah, looks like it. And we have a decision to make here. They're gonna mirror and flute where? Looks like they're going back in their portal.
Yeah, I think this is what we were talking about. There's a lot of options. So I think there might be a little bit of a discussion on how they want to approach this from this point. I mean, they got so many crystal dungeons beatable. I mean, Swamp, Thieves Town. I suppose those are the only 2 because they've already done 3.
Yeah, I think walking out of here tells me they're probably heading down towards Hype Cave area, because otherwise saving and quitting would certainly have been faster. Saving and quitting might still have been faster if they're going to Hype Cave, but if they're going up towards the north route, then saving and quitting for sure would have been faster.
But we do go across the bridge through the hammer pegs, and yeah, it looks like this is going to be Hype Cave into Swamp, into a south Dark World suite.
Yep, and the temperature is gonna be very nice to have going into Swamp as well, making the Argus fight coming up a lot smoother when you can use one shot every puff. There's our first bottle, actually. And powder. Okay, so 2 pretty much fetch quest items in here. So the value of Hype Cave is questionable at the moment, but it could pay off.
Maybe a little bit more to our runners here. Always nice to have those in your back pocket. They're already in pretty good position with Red Mail and 10 Hearts, but it's just a little bit of extra safety. Make sure that they're good to go for the rest of the steed. Not to mention, yeah, we do get a couple of checks out of those as well. So not the worst Hype Cave, not the best, but we'll get a swamp play here.
Yeah, looks like they're gonna go for the tablet here first. And it's gonna be interesting if they decide to go for the left side or not. Because I can see a scenario where you would either skip it or check it at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, I think at this point, if you're going into Swamp this early, needing this many items, oh, well, there's a glove, so that's 1 item down.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
I still feel like you do a full clear. If you're coming to Swamp this early, if you're doing it instead of Thieves Town, I feel like you need to be checking everything you can.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And Ambrosia, maybe there's a slight bit of difference, but I don't think so. I think you got enough stuff left on your plate, on your wish list, that you don't want to be leaving anything behind here. And it's doubly so if you know how to do the diver down, which, again, don't know if either of these runners know it or practice it, but it would be pretty exciting to see if they do.
Okay, so into Swamp we go. Now, it's gonna be interesting to see if any of these runners have been practicing the diver down glitch. I can see, especially when you're new to this game, it not being on the highest priority list to learn. So I wouldn't expect to see that in every game coming up here.
Oh, no, for sure. I do know that I've, from hanging around in the Discord, in the Go Mode Podcast Discord, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, highly recommend you do. So I've definitely seen some of our runners talking about putting some time into practicing a lot of these newer tricks that have come out recently. So who knows? We may see it, we may not, but it is a nice thing to know once you're a little more comfortable and are looking for some extra time saves. Very nice thing to learn, especially if you're going to be doing a full clear of Swamp. And Jere getting through Aga and is now in the Dark World. We'll see where they decide to go, and I'm thinking they're going to similarly be making this play over to the Palace of Darkness. But making me eat my words a little bit, they're actually going to head for Hype Cave, it looks like, first. Meanwhile, we do have Crimson heading through Swamp Palace now. And is this going to be Diver down? No, it doesn't look like it. But we are going to be doing the full clear. Yeah. The way that room, if you are going to be doing Diver down, normally looks as you would be setting a bomb by the switch. But looks like Crimson just going to do the normal full clear, which is perfectly fine. Like as Walter was saying, when you're newer to running, those sorts of tricks are lower down on the priority list.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, especially when you found the map in the first chest, then there's at least one item on the left side. So I could see a scenario where they don't get any map or compass early and just go for the back first, hoping that map and compass is on the left side. But this time around, it's pretty much a guarantee. And Jere heading over here to the tablet right away, gonna get their gloves as well. They're still gonna have to go back for pod later, but they could potentially go mode it later on. I think that they still will get the sword. I think that was before the big key in that path, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yes, the sword was actually the very first chest of pod, so we'll definitely be getting that.
That's really nice. The problem is that they're not going to have it until they go to pod, so they're now going to have to do Swamp Palace with the Master Sword instead of Tempered, which is a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, the jump between Master Sword and Tempered is pretty it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
So Tempered and Gold, you could really go either way with those two. Gold obviously a little bit better, but yeah, going from Master Sword to Tempered Sword is pretty huge.
Yeah, and I would say especially the newer you are to Rando, the bigger the difference is between the jumps between the swords.
There we go. Crimson struggling a little bit to get that pot up. That's actually a little bit more difficult than it looks. I find you kind of have to waggle your D-pad a little bit when trying to pick it up.
Yeah, if you do a hook dash to the skull underneath there, you'll get it 100% every time. So you get into the spin speed state.
But Crimson going to be heading towards the back as Jere gets into the dungeon, and we'll see if Jere makes the same. Jere could make the same decision here that Crimson did. I would have to imagine so, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and they're skipping going back to the big chest for now. I think the compass is still possible to be in there. I mean, if it is, it should actually be guaranteed at this point, because the boss is going to have an item.
I don't think we've seen the compass yet, so that means that the compass, I believe, is in fact in that big chest. So won't have to worry about that. Again, another little quirk of Ambrosia.
Yeah, that ends up being quite nice. Going for the hook and slash over and over again, which makes perfect sense to me here. We don't have any way of doing a quick kill on the second phase here, but with the temper, 2 spins is going to be enough. So
yeah, having that tempered will make this a lot nicer.
Mm-hmm. Looks like, unfortunately, they just barely missed the 1 cycle and ended up being a second and 2 cycles. So it took a little bit of extra time, but got the job done. Got another crystal down, and might actually use the route up all the way up to digging game here, and then mirror and head up to Dudecia Outcast that way.
Yeah, we're still looking for our mitts, our fire rod, and arcane, and of course potentially ether, though. We hope our runners are not that unlucky this seed.
Yeah, we are in a position where we could end up with Myth's Go Mode, which is one of the, if not the best Go Mode item to have, because it just guarantees that you get to skip a lot of stuff and probably get a couple of Go Mode dungeons as well.
Yeah, I'd say
we're gonna go for.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this is an interesting call as well. I totally forgot that we had both red crystals, and with killing Aga, we can actually take the quick way up here. Might even decide to go up to Catfish after this as well.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting. If they're wanting to be as thorough as possible, then I definitely agree with this play. You do this, you do Catfish, and then you just go back and hook shot across to get to the other side of Dark World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could hook over right away if they want to as well. When you have Aga killed, Catfish is not that bad to routing because you can just do it whenever you save and quit in the Dark World. But since they're already here, wouldn't be surprised to see them go for it right away.
Yeah, I would probably feel differently if they were, say, like one item away from Go Mode. But I think in this scenario, what's the likelihood that all of our progression is going to be in Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town? It's a little bit lower given how much we still need.
Yeah, looks like Catfish is the play. They could always use Mirror and then float over to Village of Outcasts as well if they want to from here. But then they're going to be in the scenario of okay, do we go north or south after that? Which can be a little bit annoying when you have a 50-50 play where both plays seems equally as good. Oh, it looks like Jere actually forgot to hit the switch on the way to the left side here. It's not going to end up burning them because there wasn't anything good in it. So as long as they commit to it, not going back to it, it should be fine.
Yeah, that may be what they're discussing at the moment. That happens. I've done it myself more times than I'd like to admit. So, you just gotta. Sometimes it can be tough in a seed where you're a little bit more stressed out and thinking about some other things, forgetting that you need to hit this switch right here.
Yeah, they're hitting the switch, so that tells me they're going back, which is actually going to end up being quite a time sink, unfortunately.
Yeah, and while they do that, let's go ahead and give them both a shout out here, both Jere and Crimson, for like I said, for having the guts to allow us to restream this race. And oh well, that's an item from Sick Kid.
Yeah, that's a pretty sick fire rod. Get to the powder here as well before they go into Dark World, and yeah, Samaria emits most likely from Go Mode. This is looking better and better every moment that passes. Well, I guess that gives Hype Cave some redemption. That bottle giving us the fire rod. Yeah,
it's a retroactive higher score there, and, and the gold sword.
Yeah, okay. Not that bad after all.
So, pretty nice payout there for Crimson. We will now take those and I assume head straight for Village of Outcasts. And I also did want to, before we get a little bit hyped there for that fire rod, did want to give a shout out as well to our tracker Leoria and our restreamer Oro. Thank you both for helping us put this on. And thank you to the Go Mode podcast. If you guys haven't checked that out, they are the ones who are putting on this tournament for us very graciously. And they've got a lot of really great content over on their website and the Discord, as I mentioned earlier. If you're looking into rando in general, getting into racing, anything like that, there are a lot of really fantastic episodes you can check out. A lot of great information. Shout outs to Tim, Herfy, Durfy, and Dante, the hosts of the show.
Yeah, for sure. If you ever want more rando in your life, make sure to check out Go Mode Podcast. It's a really good one.
That fire rod has changed things. Sorry, I was just going to say that fire rod has definitely changed things as far as our routing is concerned.
Yeah, I was going to say, like there's two potential paths that I could see here going into the Dark World. One is you go up to Skullwoods and like clear this, and then go to Feast Town, and then you pretty much go north from there. Or if you start at Feast Town, you're probably going like up to Skullwoods after that, and then just clean that out. But I guess they could potentially just do the Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb after this before heading into Feast Town.
Yeah, but that Fire Rod was really nice because, as we've mentioned before, Skullwoods is one of the dungeons that suffers the most from Ambrosia, because there are only 2 dungeon items in the entire thing. And with one being on the boss, if you don't have that Fire Rod, definitely makes it a much less appetizing play.
Yeah, and I like going to the back first here, for sure. Not 100% sold on going to this chest first because we have a lot of our safeties. There's very few things that could have made the fight better here, and now we have to do 2 extra menus when we're going to the back here. Because we have the menu to the mirror, and then we're gonna have the menu back from the mirror again.
Yeah, I think that generally what you're gonna see people do is kill the boss and then grab that chest, and that way they have the mirror out. And especially in this situation where we do have the book, if you were wanting to make a pedestal check at the same time, it actually just works out so much better to do that second, and you've already got the mirror out for a quick portal.
For sure. I think they will check the pad, even though it's extremely unlikely. Only thing would be Ether, and even if Ether is on there, it's still very unlikely that we'll need it. But I think every time it's still a possibility. You probably always do it.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like a 1 in a million chance at this point, because as you said, most of our required progression from this point is also required to beat Turtle Rock. That Ether Medallion being the only thing that could be in the scenario where Meyer is Ether and Turtle Rock is either Quake or Bombos. So it feels pretty unlikely, but we'll see if they give it a quick check anyways.
Yeah, it's so unlikely that I wouldn't hate them skipping it, but I think most of the times when it's even the slightest possibility, it's 100% fair to just check it. It looks like they actually are gonna skip it. And I think like the vast majority of times, this will be worth it. At least in a scenario like this.
Yeah, it's very unlikely to burn them here, so I'm definitely for that. We still do have 1 item left here in the dungeon, so we're gonna make a quick check here to this back room in the middle section of Skullwoods. Now, do you prefer to grab this chest on your way to Mothula?
I think it makes sense to grab it on the way to Mothula for sure. But if they were planning on going back here anyways, I suppose grabbing it on the way back is fine. But if they got like an item in there and then the second on Mothula, they could have just like mirrored and taken a quicker path back to like Feast Town.
Yeah, I think that's always my feeling on it. But I could see both sides. Still looking. We're gonna head left immediately in this front part of Skullwoods. More checks. This makes sense. Maybe some indecision there. A little bit of debate about how they want to route this. I do agree with this plan though, and for that reason. Because there we go, our second item, and we're out.
Don't want to see that, but still probably not gonna change anything in the seat.
Yeah, there's a very terrible scenario where that ice rod is required, I suppose, but we're just gonna keep on trucking here. We've got a full another dungeon ahead of us, plus these extra checks in Village of Outcasts before we even have to think about Turtle Rock.
Okay, so they are going into Feast Town right away here, so they are going to have to make the decision of going south or north after Feast Town. So would be 3 items going south and 2 going north. But it's always a little bit scary when you have to like isolate something.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I think if they had, there was a route they could have chosen that would have gotten them the South Dark World stuff, and they wouldn't have to make this choice now. But I think they were prioritizing some other stuff, and
yeah, with such an early 5/6 crystal layout, maybe the 5/6 bomb was playing a bit of part of that in the routing. They are doing all of the checks here before Thieves Town, which normally you would do if you're looking for some extra safeties or something like that heading into the dungeon. We are pretty healthy at this point though. 13 hearts or 12 for Jere. Red mail. You have that blue potion as well, so.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape. The other scenario where you would be checking all this is if you were still looking for hammer, but that's not the case here. Jere is actually going to be giving us a look at these South Dark World checks.
Yeah, they're
so
doing
far we haven't
the
done
route
anything.
that you were talking about here. So they're probably heading up to Thieves Town and then Skullwoods because they're going to get the fire rod after this and then going to be able to just finish it off with Graveyard Edge and Kingston.
There's a quick blue badger sighting there in Thieves Town. Crimson getting caught by that hidden bunny beam underneath the walkway.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the Phoenix Wright games, except that he says objection a lot.
We got that part at least. Unfortunately for Jere, this South Dark World route not paying off. Just some red rupees and a piece of heart there at the digging game. So if indeed Crimson and Freddy are going to be deciding to completely skip out on those and go, as you were saying, Graveyard Ledge to King's Tomb, that will work out pretty nicely for them. We are running a little bit low on options as to where that second glove could be, though.
Yeah, we got a mushroom from Mafia, so that could be our progression. Otherwise, is it only Graveyard Edge and Kingston out of that I can think of top of my mind?
I mean, they can check Bumper Ledge, but we can't get it without the cape, unfortunately.
I guess Spike Cave is finally open now.
Yeah, they have Spike Cave as an option. The other thing they have is the final item in Desert.
Oof, yeah, that one is a little bit rough. This isn't gonna be a nice sort of a Jere here. Not gonna have to have that like time sink from not having tempered from Pod, getting it here instead. That's gonna be helpful, especially before we're going into Skullwoods, because Master Sword and Temper Sword, it's a big difference in that dungeon.
Yeah, should be getting his fire rod here momentarily, and I imagine that will push them straight into Skullwoods as well.
Oh, was about to open the chest, but decided not to, so I guess we got all of our items already, except for the last one, which will be on blind.
Yep, that's looking like the case. And that chest, I mean, if you do end up opening it, even though you've gone 3 dungeon items, it's not the end of the world. It's a very minor time loss, but not opening it does save you the slightest bit of time. So you could call there whoever caught it, probably maybe Freddy did.
Yeah, the big one is being able to skip the big chest, which potentially actually even had the small key. So other than that, the rest of them isn't very big of a deal being able to skip or not. There's our mitts from from blind. Unfortunately, we got the miss before the King of Samaria, so that is going to put us in a little bit of a tough position potentially. And there's a couple of bad spots that could be in now.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say the one nice thing about this is it does mean, and we've known this, I guess, for once since we found that fire rod, but that doesn't look like we're gonna have to worry about Turtle Rock at all at this seed, which is really nice. Looks like Crimson is going to do these south checks and route in Smiths. Probably.
Yeah, looks like they're doing all of this so they can just flute with the chest after they're done here.
I honestly wouldn't hate just making a quick play over to Meyer area. I'm not even necessarily going in the dungeon if you can, since obviously we can't complete it without Kane. But making a quick check over, checking to see whether or not we do need that Ether Medallion, as well as, we've got some other checks to do, like Checkerboard Cave. So, Fire Shed.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's their first decision after floating with the purple chest coming up soon.
Yeah, Crimson there. That pair remembering that they had not done digging game yet, and you need to do that before you grab the Smith or the purple chest, because the dig game simply won't work if you've got them already piled up with you.
Yeah, even if you leave the purple chest on a completely different screen, he is still gonna be able to see it that far away for some reason.
He's like still got the stink of the purple chest on you, I guess. I don't know.
Because we grab the Smith, we can do the hammer picks as well. So we're not gonna leave anything in this area after we're done here, which is pretty nice. It's always a nice feeling when you know you're completely done in an area and never have to return again.
Yeah, and this kind of fits the strategy that they've been playing towards all seed. When in doubt, they've gone for full clears and being as thorough as possible, rather than, I think there's definitely an argument to be made in this position that you should be making some let's call them light gambles, but it all comes down to what you're comfortable with and how you like to route.
Yeah, I like to call this strat planning for the worst but hoping for the best. So just in case it's a really bad seed, they're just getting all of these stuff done. So yeah,
that was really.
In the end, they won't have too many choices.
Yeah, for sure. I was really close on Jere's side. Nearly got grabbed by that wall master there. Would have not been very much fun, but does manage to get through that torch room.
Yeah, you just barely missed the door the first time around as well.
Yeah, and we're fluting away with that purple chest. So yeah, it does look like they've decided to forego the North Dark World checks and King's Tomb in favor of this. And let's see if they do end up going to Meyer or if they head back. Ooh, checking that mushroom. Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not really gonna cost them that much time.
Well, that was the right color, but unfortunately not what we were looking for. Red ruby. So here we go.
Really nice moth kill there for Jere. Getting the mushroom as well.
Yeah. Had Jere hanging around here, still behind a couple of dungeons, but is making their way through this seed. We're not quite getting the Meyer medallion check there.
Yeah, teasing us to the maximum here.
And it's fine. You're always going to be doing this check. And hey,
Ooh, okay.
Okay, well, drum roll, please, because if this is Bombos or Quake, we are in go mode.
Okay, that's go mode.
That is incredibly kind, and always what you're hoping for when you make this sort of check.
Yep, and this is not only go mode, but this is the last dungeon that they have to clear before Ganon's Tower as well. Sometimes this can be a really fast go mode dungeon, but sometimes it can be a bit of a pain. You might have to full clear it no matter what. Depends on that big key location.
Yeah, we'll see if the seed has one last little curveball to throw at our runners, or if it's going to continue to be fairly kind. But yeah, Crimson is headed towards actually a really, really nice time here in this seed.
Yep, for sure. This unfortunately means that Jere is quite a bit behind. And it's going to be quite hard to be able to make this up.
Yeah, I think for Jere, the last hope was going to be that progression was on, say, like Graveyard Ledge, something that Crimson maybe was going to orphan. But yeah, it's looking more and more likely that Crimson's going to be coming out on top here.
Yeah, the good part with how they set up the Swiss is like because sometimes in Swiss taking early lows can be devastating, but since everyone is going to move into brackets one way or another, getting an early loss isn't the end of the world. And, did mention this is actually Jere's first race ever, and doing a really good job at it so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and like you were mentioning, it's dropping these races is not the end of the world. All of the runners that are competing in this Swiss stage will still be around for the brackets. So the really great thing about this, for especially somebody like Jere, who's new to race, completely brand new to racing, this is a learning experience. They're going to be able to take the experience they've had here, all the stuff that I'm sure that their mentor Kern is telling them in their chat, and just use it for future races. Without completely putting yourself behind the 8 ball like you would in a normal tourney. Yeah,
for sure, and especially good learning experience to have this on Restream as well, because watching it back when you have like another game feed next to it to compare to, that can be a really good learning experience. Ooh, that was a really unfortunate grab by the hand. Got hit by the spike and then bounced back into the Wallmaster.
Yeah, so while Jere continues his way trying to get that final item here in Skullwoods, we do see Crimson, I believe, did find that big key. Yep. So I believe that was in the list. So we are on our way to Vitreous and our final crystal.
Yeah, we don't have any silver arrows at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see if Crimson is used to doing that or feel comfortable doing that fight or not. We'll have a few options to get it still. We'll get one item guaranteed on Vitreous, and then we still have to find the GT big key, and we could find silvers along the way there.
Yeah, the nice thing for Crimson is if they are familiar with the strategy, they do have the Cane of Samaria, so they can do Cane and dash strats through the eyes here, and then finish off with the bow and arrow on the big eye. I think the general strategy is that a lot of people use this to do damage boosted spins on the smaller eyes. I think ends up being the fastest way without silvers, but Crimson's got a lot of options here for how to handle this fight.
Yeah, if you want to go really safe, you can use the Kina Burna. You have Gold Sword as well, so you just dashing through the ice is actually really efficient when you have the Gold Sword. Missed the fairy there, unfortunately, but yeah, looks like we're gonna go for a little bit of damage boost spin strat here.
Yeah,
Getting
I'm
a couple
thinking. Sorry, I was going to say I'm thinking that this is maybe not something Crimson has done a lot. You actually have a lot of leeway to move into that group of smaller eyes. We are indeed going to go for Berna here. Just doing slashes also works perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think they looked like they were about to grab a potion, but I think Freddy probably just advised to using the Berna here instead, because there was no need to actually use this potion yet. You could save it for Ganon's Tower. You had so much magic for the Berna, so it looked like they went for that instead.
Yeah, they might have gone into that with the intention of giving that strategy a try, but as I said, maybe Crimson not super comfortable with it. They end up just going for the burn strats, and in fact getting it down. And you know what that means, Walter?
It means it's GT time, and I do believe we have a GT big key guessing game here.
We do indeed. I was the first one I did. I was actually surprised to see we have it, but we do. So Hasserbot, as you see there, giving us the rundown. But just to kind of say it out, there are 22 locations in Ganon's Tower where the big key can be. Go ahead and get your guesses in chat on where that key might be. I see you've got your guess in there of 18.
Yeah, or 81, I guess.
I'll go and throw in my 11 right there. Guessing the game will end as soon as Crimson enters Ganon's Tower, so you've got a little bit more time if you want to get your guess in.
It's going to be interesting to see what route they decide to take in Ganon's Tower. There's a couple of viable ones. I know a lot of newer players like to go for like the Hope Room and then full left. They might decide to go for that, or maybe they have practiced some of the other strats as well.
Yeah, it always feels like I know that there's I'm sure there is a mathematically doing hair quotes here, mathematically correct play that you can make, but it's always just such a crapshoot that I don't feel like there's necessarily any wrong path. It just whatever you feel comfortable doing and what you're used to is okay.
We're checking Hookshot Cave here before Ganon's Tower, so I feel like that's a pretty clear indicator that at the very least they want to maximize their chances of getting silvers before Ganon.
Yeah, I don't blame them. It might be a situation where Crimson knows how to do silverless Ganon, but is maybe less comfortable with it. And given that they're sitting here with only GT left at an hour 30, they're maybe feeling pretty good about their chances, and just like you said, want to maximize the odds that they do find those silvers.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of the GT rounds, I think there's like at least 3 like equally viable strats, and they all have like different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I think.
But it's all about that. In the end, it is a guessing game because it is very much random.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the Hope Room into full left, or some people do like to just do full left rather than doing Hope Room first. You can always go right if you get a small key in Hope Room through Compass Room, and then mirror out to go full left after that. And then, of course, there are some a little bit more funky ones like the Dark Magician, where you go full left into the Stalfos Room, and then mirror out and go back right into Compass Room.
Do get a small key here, so there's our silvers as well, so that's gonna solve that problem. And we do have a clear full left coming in here, because even though we did get a small key, are leaving this room here and just heading left instead. But yeah, those silvers, that's that's a very kind location to have them in.
Yeah, I think this seed has treated our runners pretty nicely so far. So very, very kind location for that. As we do head over into the Stalfos room here for checks 4, 5, 6, and 7. Crimson making nice use of that hook shot to get those Stalfos stunned and prevent them from leaping away from you. Trying to get there is a piece that you can hook onto there. I think he was just a little bit too far away, a little too far to the right to get it, but does go, and there's a different way you can go. So does get into double fire by room, gets 10 arrows, and will now be heading further into the dungeon.
Very nice boomerang stress there. Can be a little bit odd when you try and get them the first try. So probably practice that a bit.
Yeah, that's one of those NMG strats, room strats that we were talking about earlier. And yeah, very nicely pulled off there from Crimson. So that was our 9th check as we head into Rando Room, so named as it is a room that you would never, ever go into generally in a vanilla run. You might, but there's usually no reason to come over here. But in Rando, we do have 4 checks. And it is indeed in here, check number 10.
Quite fitting location to have the G2 big key in a Rando game, I suppose. Then.
And congratulations to Zero Nix, who ends up being the closest to 10. Congratulations, you win some awesome points that you can use to lord over the rest of the guessers. And so all that leaves us now is the climb up Ganon's tower through the gauntlet, finish off Aga 2, and then to beat Ganon himself. So we are on our way to a very nice finishing time here for Crimson.
Yes, and we saw Crimson even skipping the rest of the chest in Rando Room. So after getting these silvers, seem to be 100% comfortable with the gear and equipment that they have. I think they even had two blue potions.
Yeah, I believe so. I think at this point, 16 hearts, red mail. It's easy to feel a lot more comfortable. He has everything he could possibly want to finish out this seed.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jere is getting through Thieves Town here, so he's going to be able to get those Titan Smiths quite soon, and probably getting the Cane out long after. So they might be able to actually go mode pod after all, which is going to be quite nice. Fortunately, probably going to be a bit too late in terms of winning this race, but they're still on a good path of getting quite a respectable time as well.
Yeah, and again, this being Jere's first ever race, I think a solid performance all the way around, and should be able to finish pretty quickly. They, the thing is, they've already done pretty much everything else. I think they've done all the North Dark World stuff that Crimson skipped out on, as well as the South Dark World routing. So, I have to imagine Cardin will be telling Jere, let's get over to Maya really quickly, see what that medallion is, and that'll get them their cane. Yeah.
I don't remember where bombos were, but they never picked it up, but not gonna really punish them, because we only need the Quake medallion. So, that's gonna be
Bombos, fine. Bombos was actually in pod, so...
Oh, okay.
They probably won't be getting it, but thankfully for them, they don't need it.
For sure. Nice strong finish there on that Molas. The gold sword is really strong against the Molas, getting just a double slash there in the end.
Yeah, all you need is 2 hits with that gold sword to finish them off. doing the very nice quick kill here of the Wizrobes in that first room after Landmo. And we got one more here. Let's see if Crimson's able to get it done. Just misses hitting that bottom right Wizrobe. It's going to have to take a couple more cycles to kill him.
Yeah, this one is a little bit more tricky. So almost a lot of combo in order to get it correctly.
But we have made it through. We're here at the torch room with this fire bar. We need to get these 4 torches lit and get through the door relatively quickly. Crimson doing a nice job. Just, I think at this point for Crimson, just playing it safe, not doing any sort of crazier strats, but doing very well. That might have been actually a little bit close. It's hard to tell without the audio, obviously, but might have been a little bit close to despawning the tower. Always something you want to be watching out for when you're doing that room.
Yeah, for sure. They have enough keys that didn't need to kill the mini helmet here. That's always nice. Does have the powder, so they can go for a refill here if they want to. Looks like they're gonna skip that. Even it's gonna skip the magic too, but that's probably gonna be fine. We have half magic, and we're not gonna get as much magic as we normally would because we have the silvers, and we do have 2 potions still.
Yeah, Crimson in very good shape, and yeah, very confidently skipping over some of those safeties. And yeah, we're powering through here as Crimson takes down Moldorm 2 very nicely, and just a couple rooms away from Aga 2.
But that was actually a pretty sick dash on the wrong side of the bumper where you normally dash, but it ended up being a pretty cool dash actually.
Yeah, that room can, if you're not familiar with the game or running, that room can actually be really annoying to get through. Very nice double to start off with here. The Aga 2 fight, and gets one more. Just needs 2 more hits. Some very nice patterns here. Ooh, just doesn't quite get into position quickly enough, and actually gets hit by the beam rather than getting the spin off.
Jere doing what you were talking about as soon as they're getting the mitts, instead of doing the Smith sequence first, just heading over to see what Meyer is, and he's gonna actually put them in go mode right away, which is really nice.
That will pay off, but Crimson is now just 1 boss fight away. Takes down Aga 2 and now just has Ganon left. So as Jere enters go mode, Crimson will be dropping into the pyramid. So we just need 6 hits from that gold sword here in the first 2 phases. That should be plenty for Crimson to get the 1 cycle on the first phase. Just needs a couple more here, but is going to play it safe. It's perfectly okay. Going to get those final few hits in and moves on to phase 3.
Yeah, looks like they have the potion prepared here, just in case. No need to risk it. They're still safe for at the very least 1 more hit from Ganon. Actually, maybe not in terms of hugs.
Yeah, I was to say I think a hug would be a death. I would, yeah, and I 100% agree with that. Just use that potion and don't even take the chance.
Yeah. Makes sense, and just baiting out the fire bat here, and just gonna play it safe.
Unfortunately, only going to be able to get the 1 silver arrow there. Ganon a little bit too close to the edge of the arena. If he hits that outer ring, then he will no longer be vulnerable to silver arrow hits.
Yes. Exactly. That's something. It's a pretty good like telltale sign if how experienced you are with Link to the Past is how if you shoot more arrows than possible to get hits, but gets all 4 done. So Jere, not Crimson is gonna finish this seed in first place.
Yeah, so get your GGs in chat as he just has this walk across the bridge. CrimsonPallasch has finished first in this seed with an official race time GG time of 1 hour 44 minutes 54 seconds. So get your GGs in chat. Very well run race.
Yeah, GG's to Crimson and their mentor Freddy, doing a great job here. And Jere is in go mode as well, so on a good path of getting this his first race completed as well.
Yeah, looks like I'm sure that they've seen that that finish come in, but sticking it out and yeah, I feel like it's good practice. Nobody's required to finish these if they're not feeling it, or if their opponent finishes well ahead of them. But yeah, I'd love to see Jere stick this one out and get it finished and get that good first race experience out of the way.
Yes, and we are joined by our winners, Crimson and Freddy. GG's, guys.
Thanks. Hey, is this not working? Oh, there we go. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep. GG's.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that was a good first race there.
Yeah, that I would definitely agree. What are your thoughts about this seed?
Well, it threw some good curveballs there, especially trying to find even the power glove, but
Yeah.
Overall, I've done some practice seeds where I, for the life of me, could not figure out where I was able to go next. And so this one, constantly having something, it's like, okay, we can go check this, we can check this one next. That was pretty encouraging.
Yeah, I was about to ask how much of Link to the Past have you played before this tournament?
A Link to the Past has been my favorite Legend of Zelda game since we first got it when I was like pre-teen, maybe like even like 8 or 9. I don't remember how old I was when it came out, but I played it pretty much at least once a year since I was a little kid. But in terms of like trying to pull off some of these incredible glitches and shortcuts, I really started practicing in earnest on the 27th? Pretty much Wednesday last week when I found out that I was accepted as a racer. I've been playing at least a seed a day.
Yeah, it definitely shows that the practice have been working because you had a lot of really good execution throughout this race.
Yeah, no, he's been doing great.
I need to make it sound like I was actually intentionally doing some things, but some of those things, it was the first time I actually pulled them off.
Yeah, the boomerang trick in Ganon's tower. I'm just kind of like, do you know that? And he's like, yeah, kind of. It's like this, right? And just doesn't. I'm like, yeah, no, that's it. Good job.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. We actually pointed that out that looked like you definitely had practiced that before.
Yeah, we had done
that was the first time I successfully pulled it off.
Hey, like I said, you didn't have to tell him that part. You can just.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest about it.
No, I'm messing with it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was very well done, and I guess let's going back to a little bit earlier in the seed, when you guys got all those early goodies, do you guys still have ag in the back of your mind? Because I mean, the Master Sword and Lamp were super early, but the Seed kind of gave you a whole bunch of options. Like, what were you guys' thoughts at that point?
Yeah, we thought about it for a while. It's like, I mean, Aga's available. I was thinking that pretty much from the very start because, like you said, early Master Sword, early Lamp, there's very possible.
I have been interrupted
Also, happy
by
birthday.
my wife that brought in a birthday cake for me.
Yo, happy birthday!
Yeah, happy birthday.
My birthday is this week, so it was a nice little opportunity to actually have my race be restreamed.
Yeah.
So now I'm being smoked. But yeah, we had Aga on the back of our mind the entire time, but we were trying everything we could to not go there. And the game's like, nope, you're doing this.
Yeah, it's kind of got to the point to like, okay, we'll do Aga at some point if we don't find like one of the parts to get there. And then this is when we were heading to Mini Moldorn Cave. I'm like, okay, well, we don't need to do like Agana. If it's nothing, we'll just go straight to the thing. And then we got Hookshot and Hammer out of there. It's like, well,
Yeah,
I guess we'll just check everything and probably not get it anyway. But here we go.
yeah. You both ended up exhausting everything before doing Aga.
Yeah, it was quite the light world adventure in that scene.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to do Aga?
Nobody's
Yeah,
sane, at least.
It was pretty crazy that before you even stepped into Kakariko, already had like 2 crystal dungeons available to full clear.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed that too. It was weird.
That was pretty crazy, but it was nice to be able to just get those knocked out so early. And a lot of my practices, I mean, I would only be able to complete 1 dungeon, and then that would unlock like maybe 1 small section. And this one definitely gave us options instead of some of those ones where it's like it's leading you. You're going here, now you're going here, now you're gonna head down this way because that's all the items I'm gonna give you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you definitely see it. This one was a lot more open than a lot of Seeds, where it ends up being pretty linear. On that note, I something that I was kind of picking up on was you guys end up being a lot more thorough. I'm kind of thinking about the after Swamp going up for Pyramid Fairy and Catfish. Is that something you generally try to do, or was that kind of a result of you guys putting your heads together on the routing front?
That was mostly me trying to make a play. It's like most people probably I know wouldn't do that, but with the glove where it was, I was originally thinking we could probably do the whole loop, but just ended up deciding to go with that instead, and ended up mostly working out. Getting that fire rod when we did was nice.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. We were talking about that hype cave. It was okay. It's not the worst. Of course, it then ended up leading to fire rod and the last sword. So
Yeah. Terry Murderdactyl, stop. Sorry, I'm watching the restream now.
yeah, we do have Jere here, still trucking along. Has only got 1 dungeon left to do, and it is in fact pod in go mode here. So we'll be able to save a little bit of time and not having to fully clear this. Does need to find that big key, however.
Guess I could pull up the stream on my end.
Fortunately, I think the big key was actually I think you able to get Butter Sword in Shooter Room and then have to go up right side and get a big key and a key and finish. I'll make it nice and easy.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll even get this sword in here as well. Speaking of safeties, have you ever tried doing the Civilized before? Because we were kind of debating if that was something that you guys were familiar with or not.
That is something that I've completed once, and if I wasn't able to find the silvers before then I would have done silverless Ganon, but I really didn't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hence the checking of Hookshot Cave and such.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were guessing. Ended up in the end that it was quite a kind location for the silvers to be in.
Convenient is the word I would use, but yeah.
I guess that's fair.
I mean, on that note, we obviously found the big key there in the rando room. Were you guys going to continue going forward, or was that going to be your cutoff once you found the big key?
Ironically, Freda was like, yeah, most people check to see what all those others are, and I'm like, I'm going.
Well, I mean, in some situations. Obviously, when you
Yeah.
have red mail already, and buttersword already, and silvers already.
Yeah, at that
There's not
point,
much
especially with having double blue potions as well, but probably
yeah.
few items that could have helped a big deal compared to what you guys had.
Yeah, and I don't know how long we were in there before I realized I completely forgot to start my timer. I was thinking, for everything to mess up on my first race, that's probably the best thing that I could have messed up. I figured they were doing such a great job of trying to get everything to look nice, and I didn't even start my timer. I'm looking at the restream and it's like, oops.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's not too big a deal. We did have the timer on Jere's in there.
Yeah.
Yes. Were you guys sweating about the anything about the medallion from Meyer after you guys got the cane in the were you just like, it's fine, it's probably
I was
having.
Because I was half expecting it to be ether with ether on pedestal.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I was kind of expecting the worst on that, but it ended up turning out being great in the end. So, I mean, having one of these seeds where we were able to completely skip 2 of the Dark Vault dungeons, especially being the 2 most people don't really want to run, that was fantastic. But if it turned out that we needed ether, then it would have turned into a slog to get ether.
Yeah,
Yep.
We were
there
kind of
could have been
discussing
a lot
that.
of unkind locations for sure.
There was a lot of ice palaces in Turtle Rock that I did not want to dip if we didn't have to.
Yeah, and we were hoping that we were going to get the cane before we got the Titan's Mitt, because we did get the Titan's Mitt first, but if we found the cane first, then it would be much more logical or it would give us less things to check to find Titan's Mitt.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as Fred had told me about that, and the first thing I found was the Titan Mitts, my heart kind of sunk. It's like, oh, where are you going to send me to get this last item that I need?
Yeah, and Jere has officially forfeited, but they have decided they're gonna play out the seed. But in terms of for the restream, and we are joined here a while with Jere and Kern, GT's guys.
Hey,
GG.
how you doing?
GG.
GG, everybody. Oh, man.
Yeah, so I guess kind of give us your initial thoughts here. I understand that this was your first race, first
Yeah.
official race.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was really rewarding, to like see how I play different and have an excellent mentor to help me. But man, like my brain was soup. It's like I couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of feels it when they first start racing. And you can have all the experience in the world, but there is that extra bit of pressure. So I feel like you handled it pretty well, and I'm sure Kern was super helpful there as support. keep it going.
I don't know if Kern feels like I handled it pretty well. I was like having meltdowns. I was having meltdowns in our chat.
No, dude, you're fine. I feel like that the important thing is like, I mean, we talked about this a lot, but like you refocused if you made a mistake, and that's the hardest thing is like, you are going to make mistakes no matter what level of skill and run you are. And the key thing is if you obsess about it or whatever, you're thinking about, oh my God, people saw it on the restream or whatever, then it can just cause you to get so distracted. But you did a good job like of refocusing after any, and there weren't any major mistakes. There were just like little mistakes here and there, I felt like.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time like just joking around with Crimson as well, just to help him not think about the race as much and just go through and have fun playing the seed, because that's a lot of what we're doing here.
So helpful in that regard, because he was like, "Hey, I could tell you like the reasoning why we should do this, but like if that's going to distract you," I'm like, "Dude, please just tell me all the theory, all the reasoning, because my heart is pounding through my chest, and I need to not think about that. And thinking about the reasoning is great. Give me the reasons, all of them."
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what this tournament is for, right? Is to get somebody there who can give you a little bit more of that info and the reasoning behind stuff. It's one thing to see a runner, do all these things and make these decisions mid race, but getting that reasoning behind it is certainly valuable.
Yeah.
On that note, though, obviously this is your first race, but what's your sort of experience with A Link to the Past just in general, and Rando as well?
Well, I've been watching it for years. Just like a really big fan. I've watched a ton of it, like a ton. And about a month ago, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know. I'd say like 2 months ago, I started running the simulator a lot, the Z3R Sim. I don't know how popular that is, but
it's an incredible tool. I highly recommend it.
I love it. And I just
highly
started
recommend
running
anybody
for fun,
racing. Check it out.
like just for fun, as a fan of watching the stuff. And the more I ran that just for fun, I was like, I think I really want to learn this. So about a month ago, I just kind of started playing the rando a little bit and trying to pick stuff up. And then Luma guy told me about the mentor tournament, and I'm like, heck yeah, that sounds great. And then yesterday they asked me if they wanted to restream my race, and I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And then today came around, and I was a mess, an absolute mess.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us, and like we all said, first race, it's always a different energy, but I think you did just fine.
I appreciate it.
And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing all of you guys, get these races in and work with the mentors and improve. Like that's the entire point of the tournament. So, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how you're looking week 6.
Yeah, no, me too. It was really, really valuable. So, me too.
Yeah, same here. I mean, Freda and I did a practice run just to kind of see how it's going to work with running through a seed, having a mentor, and I was definitely running and gunning a lot more. And he's like, "Oh wait, no, you should go over here," and I have to turn around and do that. And he coached me on a couple of things. And when I was going through the race, I mean, just the number of times where I'm like, see, I'm learning. I learned what you taught me. It was really incredible. I mean, I'm excited to see where all the other racers are at the end of this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And I would definitely recommend for both of you to like watch the restream back at some point, because that's a really good learning experience when you have like your own game feed and someone else's right next to each other. That can be like a really good learning experience to both learn what your mistakes were and like learn from your opponents as well.
I learned so much from watching my own restreams back. Like I literally right before this, I was rewatching my spoiler race that I did earlier, and it's just like, yeah, that's one of the things I definitely agree. I hardly recommend running back, even if you're just doing a run on your own, going back and watching your run back and just kind of seeing it, seeing what exactly went wrong, what you could work on, maybe things like that.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to doing that. But I have to say, I think the most valuable takeaway from today was, all the little things I learned from Kern about how to make the seed a little bit easier. And that's the sort of thing as a fan trying to make the transition to running, you don't see that.
Yeah,
there's
one
a
of
lot
the
things.
Yeah, one of the things that came up today. Well, there was a few. I don't remember. There was like a boss one. What was it? I forget. Jerry.
For example, there was a thing like I was telling Crimson on the way to Eastern, you can just hold your sword out and poke the knight that boy is spawning and just walk past him instead of having to wait around and go around him or something.
Oh yeah,
Little things like that.
Yeah,
but there was
Oh, go ahead.
there was something I was, like we talked before the race, for example, about like my comfort level with dark rooms and stuff, and I've been practicing them, and I'm not very good at them at all. My comfort level is low, and we were like, you know what? Why do that if the risk of losing a bunch of time is, And that's not how I was thinking. That's not the mindset I was in coming into this. You know what I mean? And the mindset I was in was like, I got to do the stuff.
Yeah, you're so used to seeing the best runners do the optimal strats, and so what you don't see, I mean, we were talking about this on the call too, but what you don't see is that, like, okay, they've been racing for 3 years, but for the first year, they did a suboptimal, quote unquote, suboptimal strat that's like 3 seconds slower or something, but that's infinitely easier. But you don't see that because that's not who you watch when they run,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times Fred is like, use the mirror, it's faster. I'm like, right, use the mirror.
Yeah. Oh, me too, trust me. And one thing I had to ask Karen was, please help me remember to get the health refill when I save and quit, because I forget all the time. I forget to get the health refill.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the kind of stuff that this tournament is awesome for. So, yet again, looking forward to seeing you guys heading forward. Any final thoughts from you guys, Crimson, Freddie, Jerry, or Kern?
I'm good.
I mean, I've been seeing, like, even in the chat, just a lot of people talking about just how nervous they are. But it's being said, but we really can't stress the point just how much it is about improving. So just go in, have fun, learn some new skills. If you're not comfortable with them, don't worry about trying to perform anything. Just do what you know. Because my mentor told me that it's not so much trying to do things fast, it's doing things consistently.
Yeah, I got similar advice. So
yeah, it's also about having fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. And it was
always first and foremost. If you're not having fun, then what's the point, really?
I've been having fun with this game for years, so take it to the next level, right? So here we go.
Unless you do the spoiler races.
Have fun, everyone.
Yeah.
Don't remind me.
Anyway, thanks for putting it on. I know you guys are doing a ton of work to put it on, so I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me, and thanks for being kind for fresh off the shelf noob.
Yeah, and also I'm sure Jerry's gonna hate me for this, but we're gonna finish up the race, and if you wanted to come by and be that audience for Jerry to put the have that, oh my god, somebody's watching me pressure, that can be a good experience too. So I'm just gonna put, I know you're gonna hate me for this, Jerry, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put his, somebody already did it.
Yeah,
His Twitch in the chat.
Hey, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I think I've already followed you on Twitch.
All right. Well, it's absolutely our pleasure. Yeah, it is our pleasure to put this on. Thank you guys both, CrimsonPallasch and Jere Dudecia. Give those guys a follow. It takes incredible guts to put yourself out there for these restreams. Thank you, Freddie and Kern, for mentoring for these guys. Awesome jobs with both of you. Thank you once again to our tracker, Leoria, and our restreamer, Oro, SSBM Oro. Yeah, and got the links to those guys' Twitch as well. And Walter, thank you so much for joining me on this. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here. Looking forward to see a lot more games. This is just week 1. We still have another 5 weeks after this week is over, so it's gonna be interesting. And then we have brackets even.
Oh yeah, and once again, check out the Go Mode podcast. We got the link to the website there. Once again, fantastic source of information if you're looking to get into running, racing, just rando in general. Also, have a look at the Discord. There's a lot of information, stuff happening over there with this tournament going on. There's a schedule posted there if you're looking for more restreams of these. And I can tell you that we do, in fact, have a couple of restreams set for tomorrow. Looks like we've got a race between Vortex of Doom and Canard. That's going to be happening 3 p.m. Eastern. And then we've got another race happening between Yo Fart Gamer and Hub, which will be going on at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, this should be really funny as well. But I think that's going to do it for us here. Once again, thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming out, watching this, chatting. Yeah, it's always awesome when I get the opportunity to do this, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, once again, my name has been Jay Misher. And
I've been Walter for. Yeah, have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.
Good night.
Thank you. Night, everybody.
Nick.